It started with weakness. No, it started with emptiness. I had just come out of my first real relationship, a painful, crushing breakup, not because he was perfect, but because I gave him everything I had. I was broken, and that's when he appeared. He was charming, confident, strong. He walked into my life like he was here to save it. And me? I didn't resist. I thought I was incapable of love. He said he could handle that he wasn't afraid of my pain, and I believed him. But the truth is, he wasn't saving me. He was just drowning with me. He had his scars, too. His ex had cheated on him years ago. He hadn't moved on. So there we were, two wounded people trying to stitch up our open wounds with each other's brokenness. It wasn't love. It was trauma bonding. But at first, it felt like passion. Wild, intense, all-consuming. We would scream at each other and then kiss like it was the end of the world. It was chaos. I thought, this is what real love must be like. Messy, explosive, painful. He never told me he had been diagnosed with endogenous depression. I'm not a doctor. I had no idea. Before the wedding, he seemed normal, even happy. Maybe it was the hormones of new love masking everything. But after we got married, something changed. He lived in two states, uncontrollable rage or a zombie-like sleep after taking his pills. There was no middle ground. I was scared. I was ashamed. I hid it from my family, my friends. I told myself it would pass, that he'd snap out of it. He never hit me, but he'd smash furniture. He'd scream so loud the windows would shake. I remember flinching when he walked into the room. I didn't even notice I had started shrinking into myself. I kept pretending. Cooking dinners, folding his shirts, trying to create a home inside a war zone. We were even planning to have a baby. I was taking vitamins, seeing doctors, tracking cycles. I convinced myself a child would give him a reason to live. That maybe he'd become the man I thought I saw in him at the start. I was so desperate to believe in the fairy tale that I ignored the monster standing in front of me. One night, he said he was meeting a friend. I told him to have fun. I smiled. Then, at 2 a.m., my phone rang. His voice was trembling. He said, "I cheated on you with a prostitute." Then he added, "If you don't forgive me, I'll kill myself." You'd think I'd scream, cry, feel betrayed, but all I felt was cold. I hung up and just sat there, listening to the silence, staring at the wall. Number I stopped eating, not intentionally. My body just rejected everything. I couldn't sleep. When I closed my eyes, I'd see his face, hear his voice, relive the phone call. I cried in the shower, in bed, at the grocery store. I was a ghost, walking through my life with nothing inside. 2 weeks, 15 kilograms gone. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. And then, 2 pink lines. I was pregnant. Inside all that pain, a heartbeat. That was it. The moment I realized if I didn't leave, I'd die. Maybe not physically, but spiritually, emotionally. And I'd take this tiny, innocent life down with me. So I left. No screaming, no tears, just quiet bags. One step, out the door. He called, he begged, then he threatened, then he cried, then begged again. I said nothing. I chose my child. I chose me. My son is not even 2 years old yet. His biological father has shown up a few times, but refuses to take any responsibility. He doesn't want the child to know who he really is. And me? I go to therapy. I'm learning how to speak about him without anger, without hatred, because my son doesn't deserve to inherit this rage. I want to break the cycle of pain that ran through generations of women in my family. Sometimes I still feel that sting. Sometimes I look at my child and wonder, what if his father had been someone else? But then I remember, without all that pain, there would be no him. And I wouldn't be this version of me, strong, free, awake. I survived. I gave birth. I rebuilt. And I will never, ever let anyone break me again.
Let's move on to the second story. I used to believe my life would flow like a quiet river in spring. I didn't dream of some grand happiness. All I ever wanted was simple, steady love. Just one person. For life. I was only 18 when I met him. He was 23. We met at a friend's gathering, and from the very beginning, he pursued me confidently, gently. No games. Just this calm certainty in his eyes, like he already knew I was the one. Back then, I couldn't imagine that same confidence would one day shatter my heart over and over again. We didn't talk much about the future. We just drifted. No questions like, what are we building together? Or, where do we see ourselves in 5 years? I was still a girl, naive. And he acted like a man, but carried his own hidden wounds. We dated for 2 years. And then we broke up. He'd started an affair at work. I found out through a friend who overheard it. I confronted him. He didn't deny it, just said, yeah, it happened. That was it. We went our separate ways. I tried to stitch my heart back together. 6 months later, he came back. With flowers, with a ring, with tears in his eyes and promises on his lips. And I said yes. I was raised to believe that you marry once, that your husband is forever, that forgiveness is stronger than betrayal. I told myself, he regrets everything. He's changed. Otherwise, why would he come back? That first betrayal, I buried it. I locked it away, deep down, and built my life on top of it. The next 2 years were quiet. No fire, but no storms either. I became soft, agreeable. I thought, this is what a good wife does. She smooths the edges. She doesn't argue. She keeps the peace. Then the tide started to turn. He began picking at me. First, it was small things. Then we fought. He would leave, loud, dramatic. And I would cry, silent, broken, unseen. Looking back now, I realize he needed these fights. They gave him permission to leave, to vanish for months, and then return, with gifts, flowers, long apologies, and the same old, I can't live without you. I never imagined he had other women during those times. I thought we were just going through a phase, that we needed time to grow. One summer during one of his absences, I had 2 brief flings. Nothing serious. These men were kind, gentle. They made me feel cared for. But I had already become addicted to chaos, to the highs and lows, to the emotional roller coaster. And then he came back again, with flowers, promises, sweetness. I fell for it, again. That summer, I got pregnant. I was 24. And for a while, everything was beautiful. He was present, loving. He doted on me, took care of everything. I believed we had finally made it through the storm, that our son would be the glue, the start of our new life. He held my hand in the hospital. He stayed up with me during the nights. For a time, we were a family, a real one. Then one day, while out at brunch with friends, my phone buzzed. A long message, unknown number, a woman. She wrote, "We don't know each other, but we have something in common. Your husband?" She told me they had been together for years, that he kept leaving and coming back to her, that he had just broken it off, for good this time, and that she was so heartbroken she wanted to say goodbye to him through me. I felt the ground disappear beneath my feet, but I didn't react. not in front of our friends. I smiled, held my son, finished the day. When we got home, I tucked him into bed, walked into the kitchen, and calmly asked my husband. He looked me in the eye and said, "I'm glad you finally know." I wanted him to deny it, to say she was crazy, that it was a lie. But instead, he started talking. He told me everything, more than I ever wanted to hear. I was numb, not sad, just hollow. But I didn't leave. I was 27, with a toddler, no job, no backup, no self-worth. I felt stuck, like I had no options. So I made the most irrational decision of my life. If I have another baby, maybe everything will get better. That September, I got pregnant again. He was perfect. Again. Took care of me. Bought me flowers. Made breakfast. Told me I was beautiful. But I couldn't stop crying. I didn't trust him. I checked his phone. Questioned everything. Every late night, every delayed call made my skin crawl. Our daughter was born in May. Healthy. Gorgeous. For a moment, I thought, this is it. We've finally become whole. But one day, when she was about a year and a half, we were sitting together planning a trip. I was using his phone to check hotels. And then, a message popped up. "When will you come love me again?" I froze. Ice in my veins. Silence in my ears. I showed him the screen. He said, "That's not for me. Must be a mistake. You're imagining things." Today, I know that's called gaslighting. Back then, in early 2016, I had no idea what that meant. I just thought, maybe he's right. Maybe I'm too sensitive. That summer, I took the kids to the countryside. He stayed in the city for work. He visited sometimes, on weekends. His phone always had no signal. Calls were short, vague. One weekend, we had friends over. I put the kids to sleep and came back to the table. He was gone. I found him standing in a dark corner, texting. I looked over his shoulder. It was her. Another one. Or maybe the same one. I don't even know anymore. That night, something broke forever. From that day on, he was no longer my husband. I didn't leave immediately, not physically, but in my heart. I was gone. What followed were the hardest years of my life. 2 kids, no job, no financial support. I had lived on the high end of middle class, never had to think about money. Now I had to rebuild everything, from the ground up. But you know what? I made it, I survived, and then I bloomed. I grew into someone I never thought I could be. Independent, whole, strong. I learned to trust myself, to listen to my gut, to never silence my own voice for the sake of someone else's comfort. It's been over 7 years now. I've dated since. Some good men, some lessons. But most importantly, I found myself. And I've promised her, the woman I used to be, that I will never again let anyone make her feel small, unseen, broken. If you're watching this, I want you to know, you don't need someone to complete you. You need yourself, your voice, your boundaries, your courage. And you must learn to speak to yourself with love before you can speak to anyone else with truth. Because love, real love, only works between 2 people who've done the inner work, who've healed their past, who are whole on their own, and choose to walk together. And until you find that, be your own home. Always.
If you found these stories interesting, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to not miss even more exciting stories. Don't forget to check out our other videos. Wishing you all the best and positivity.